Hello, everybody. Welcome today to an episode of Beyond Influence. I am Kwame Appiah, one of your hosts.
And I'm Scott Sutton. Welcome. Super excited for this conversation today.
Yes, our guest today is an incredible barrier breaker, someone who you might know on reality TV, but also has an incredible career as a streamer and an all-around just incredible person. Let's welcome Avori today to Beyond Influence. How you doing today, Avori?
I'm good. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm excited to chat with you because I know you've been through a similar experience with reality TV and now having a platform of influence. So yeah, let's get rolling.
Let's get rolling. Well, sweet. I know recently you were just at, was it GameCon in Canada?
Yes.
I'd love to kind of start off there and talk about some of your recent experiences. How was that, and how did that all, how did it set up? How did it all get started?
Yeah, I mean, I've been going to gaming events literally since before I actually was known for gaming. One of my first, I guess, appearances at one of these events, I ended up playing in a tournament against Shroud and Dr. Disrespect and won. So that was kind of like the start to being on the radar as a streamer. But to be honest with you, it wasn't like all me that won. It was like my duo partner was really good. And I was just on the team, like sitting there like, yes. But, I can still say we won against Shroud and Dr. Disrespect. So
that's awesome. And how did you get into gaming? I'm curious, like, how did your love for gaming start?
Oh, wouldn't you love to know? This is actually kind of a juicy story. I'll try and keep it short. But basically, I was dating this guy. I know, right? I was dating this guy who was like really interested in gaming, and I had never seen him be passionate about something. And I'm a huge believer in like, not everyone has to go the corporate route of getting a 9-to-5 job. And when I saw how passionate he was about gaming, I was like, how can we make this a career? So I spent 3 months over a summer after I'd graduated college, like studying the algorithms and learning how the gaming industry works. And then we just kind of both at the same time hit the ground running, streaming, gaming, everything. And I just wanted to be like a part of it because, we were together and I was interested, and somehow it ended up blowing up for me. And I'm just so grateful for it. I always tell people that's the best thing that came out of that relationship, because it just was like, I found my thing through like the most unconventional way possible.
It's so funny how that kind of stuff starts, and this random relationship sparks this whole interest. So when you started, did you ever think about it competitively? Were you thinking, no, I want to take the streamer route, I just want to have fun with it? Because clearly now, on the competitive side, you've gotten very competitive, but what was your initial goal there?
Well, my initial goal, I was literally just sitting in the background of his stream doing all of the marketing. So I have a degree in business with a minor in marketing. So my expertise lies in obviously doing the marketing side of stuff. And so that's what I would do, is I would sit in the background and people could see me in his face cam. And they're like, why don't you stream your perspective? Like, why don't you stream from your side? And I was like, oh, like maybe since I'm a girl, people will stop by my stream. I kid you not. People will say I'm lying about this. I swear, like, I don't have a Bible in here, but if I did, I swear to you, I literally went live so that people would see a girl stop by and I would be like, oh yeah, go watch my boyfriend. Because I knew that he was the one that was really good at the game. And so it's just funny that like, yeah, we don't need to go into it, but it's kind of funny.
I love it. It's like the Notebook, but for video games.
Sure. And it didn't end well.
Yeah.
If you can imagine the response to how that whole situation happened from his side. It was not good.
Wow. Well, I mean, it ended up getting you where you needed to be. So that's all that matters, right? And I think obviously you're in an awesome spot, but when we track it back to everything that happened, like initially you were you young when you discovered like any kind of love at all for video games? Because I know that way back in the day, there was kind of some talk or some, at least somewhere out in the internet, it talked about you thinking about pageantry, right? And kind of having kind of this heads up, left or right scenario in life that you had to pick one, so I'd love to dive a little bit more into, what made you go on either side.
Yeah. So that was like right at the same time. I was in college finishing up my degree, and I love pageants because of all of the community service work. And I just went through a really tough experience as a kid. My dad had a brain hemorrhage, and he was like in and out of the hospital, and my mom was caring for him. So, as I was coming into being a young adult and even a young woman, I really didn't have any like leadership or guidance because my parents, the people that I looked up to my entire life, were in the hospital. So I started doing pageants because I wanted to learn like how to be a woman, like how to walk, how to talk. And I really attribute a lot of my abilities to speak on stages and in front of people and advocate for the things I'm passionate about to pageantry. But when it came down to it, I was competing in pageants, and my goals had just shifted at the time to really supporting this person that I wanted to be together with. And when I started gaming and it started blowing up for me, I actually as well started to get really good at the game, to the point to where like people knew me as one of the top female players. And that brought me a lot of opportunity to compete around the world. And I had gotten an offer to compete in Mexico on Team USA. So that's only 4 players get invited. And I was the only female in the arena of 50 players. So I was like, I can either continue on the role of pageantry and compete on stage with 30 other women, or I can go compete on stage on Team USA as one woman in a room of 50 men and like really be a waymaker. And I decided to go with gaming.
I love that. It's super cool to see, people like yourself who find success in different areas. And, I also love that it breaks the mold of, you traditionally think about pageant and that kind of lane, and it's very different than what you would think about for gaming. And I think if we've learned anything over the last, 5-10 years, it's that you don't have to look like everyone else. You don't have to be this, nerdy guy in the basement with his buddies playing video games. You can be a pageant queen who also loves video games and loves sharing that with folks. So I think that's a super cool story. Clearly, you put your entire self into what you do, whether it's pageantry or the streaming piece or the game and the competition side. So I'm curious, how did the experience from being on Team USA, did that help accelerate everything you were doing on the streaming side? And kind of when did you think like, hey, I'm going to make this my full-time gig. I'm going to make this what I'm about, and kind of launch my career in this direction?
Yeah, absolutely. It changed everything for me because as soon as I got back from that tournament, being in that arena, I had supporters who were like, oh my gosh, there's a female there. And they were so kind and supportive. But there was this other side to it where people were like, she doesn't belong there, and get the girls back in the kitchen type of comments. And so I noticed this huge gap. And it was like the females who were skilled enough to play competitively were scared to go into the scene. So I was like, okay, what can I do? And I actually organized an all females, like the first ever all females full on competitive tournament for this game that I played called PUBG. And just to like throw icing on the cake, I guess you could call it, I decided to make it all for charity. So people joined in. We had an amazing turnout. We had, I think it was over 736,000 live views. And we made it like a huge event and raised over $10,000 for Children's Miracle Network hospitals. And yeah, it was just really cool. And since then, I've continued that on. But instead of making it all females, I just kind of like put an emphasis on females and encourage them to join. And we also don't really obviously discriminate against any gender, race, religion that wants to join. And we still do it all for charity. In our last tournament, I think we raised a little over 11,000 just in one single 2-hour event. So it was crazy.
Yeah, you are you are making big statements in that place. Yes, I love to see it. I love to see your resolve in it, and I love to see that determination, like to take something where typically it is a bit more difficult for, or I guess people would perceive it to be more difficult for women to be in, to just go in and just say, nah, we can crush this. And I think it's really beautiful to see. Now, obviously there's a tougher side of it. It seems like there's a lot of victory in what we're speaking, but I think when we all think about social media and how we interact with people, there can be a lot of positive, and we do see that, but there's been a lot of negative, right? And I don't want to say, hey, tell me all the bad things that have happened, but as you deal with these things, as you see these things, what has been an empowering way for you to really like get through the negative things that you're seeing, and what has that felt like?
I'm going to make a controversial statement for this, okay? Because I think it's important to acknowledge, as a female in gaming, it's no secret that it's easier to get views. I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. And it's a controversial statement because people like to almost play into a victim mentality of like, oh my gosh, it's so much harder for me. But the reality of the situation is, as a woman in gaming, it's easier to get views. The problem is when the pressure is put on to maybe do things that you wouldn't normally do to maintain those views. And I always like to say, I almost wish I was a guy sometimes, because that bromance, like that bond that you can create with people as a male, it's like so real and raw and genuine. Whereas as a female, maybe they're just there for the view, you know? And I don't even wear revealing clothing when I stream, but like, maybe it's just because I'm a female that they're there, which makes it, harder to create meaningful relationships. And that's just the truth. So for me, navigating that space has been really, really tough. And again, I don't say that as a victim mentality. I'm just saying that as in, it's easy to get views, but is it easy to create long lasting, true bonds with people? Absolutely not. It's actually so hard to, really connect with people in a truthful and meaningful way when people just expect you to be something to look at. So that's what I've been having to navigate these past 7 years. And, I think the biggest thing that's been helpful for me is just reminding myself that I'm not going to make everyone like me. I just have to keep doing my thing and my people will come to me. And just stay true to who I am and not fall into, the people who are doing things to get views that aren't authentic to themselves.
I love that. And I think, whether you're a streamer or you're a model or you're just a casual social media user, there's always the temptation to create content in a whole variety of different ways. And I think everyone has their own comfort level. They have their own style. They have what they want to stand for and represent. And, no, I love what you said about being authentic, being you, being genuine to who you are, and reinforcing what you want to stand for and what you feel comfortable doing. And I love the piece too about relationships. I think it is tough in life when you feel like people have ulterior motives or they don't have great intentions. And, you're looking to generate these great, genuine connections with people, and having to wonder if they're reciprocating that same type of intent is difficult to navigate. So I'm curious, as new women come onto the scene or new streamers, male or female, how would you, coach them and, help them navigate finding what that is for themselves?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it really is all about just being confident in why you're there and what you're doing. I think, more importantly than that, actually, I think finding your why is going to make you so successful. Like, for instance, Kwame, props to you for starting this podcast. I'm sure you had a thought behind it where you were like, I want to start a podcast because I want people to know, or, you have this idea behind it of what you're trying to do. And I think that people, they think about the end goal before they think about the reason why they want to get started. And I think the most successful people I've run into in my career always know their why. And when it's a strong why and you have a strong motivation, your chances of being successful are so, so high.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that you've said that resonated. And I think one of the important things was the importance of community and the way that you relate to your audience. I think when people think about it, you are right. They probably think, hey, people come in and they see your views and maybe you can, leverage your community in whichever way. But as guys, usually guys relate to guys more, right? So if a guy was watching your stream or a guy was watching another guy's stream, I think just as a habit, it could be easier for the guy to, I don't know, buy something from the recommended guy streamer as opposed to the girl streamer. So it is like, I feel like, and I wouldn't say I suffer from it, but I definitely have a relatable feel and story with my social media audience, whereas like 95% of my audience is women because they followed me from Love is Blind. So it's definitely something that has been interesting to navigate, and so I agree with you. There is something there that comes in with really, really understanding how to make sure that the community that does come like stays and like wants to be relevant within that community and follows you and cares about what you do. And that takes a while to really like mold that brand. It does.
Yeah, I'm sure that's like probably really difficult as well. Like your audience is mostly female, mine is mostly male. And it's like, how do we create genuine relationships here without crossing the line of being disrespectful to both of our marriages? Because I'm married too. And I want to connect with these people. It's not that I don't want to connect with guys. It's just that sometimes they expect stuff of me that isn't on par with what I do. And that's no hate to anyone who does do those things. This is just like me and my personal thing. And it's hard to stay relevant when people want something from you that you can't give them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think what you said about finding your why is so important. And when we were talking about the podcast, it's funny because, I'm clearly coming from the business lane and trying to grow the business. Kwame is also that, but also has this whole side where he's an influencer. And when we talked about the podcast, what we talked about is we felt like the voice of creators and the voice of influencers wasn't heard. And a lot of new creators and new influencers were having trouble navigating the journey. And so everyone in the business world is like, why would you make a podcast talking to creators? You should go talk to the brands and then sell them. That's what's going to grow your business. And I was like, that's what everyone tries to do. And it's very shallow. It's like, just come on my podcast, I'll flatter you, we'll sign a deal. But what we want to do is uplift the influencer and creator community, tell their stories. Like, you're an amazing woman, you've done amazing things. We should showcase that help the next generation of creators walk in those footsteps and not have to experience some of those hardships that you have. They're going to experience hardship, but at the same time, they don't need to experience all of the same challenges. And so I think we had a very clear why, and it might not be perfectly aligned with what a short-term outcome might be, but long-term, I think what you're saying is if you're centered in your belief, if you're doing things for the right reasons, long-term, you're going to build the audience and you're going to have the resultant outcome that you're looking for. And I love that message. I think so many people need to hear that. Long-term, aligning to your why, long-term outcome over short-term views, short-term goals, short-term thinking, it's definitely a better approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I love that you're doing this because it's true. If I were to have seen something like this in the past, or if I had some sort of guidance or influence that I could have listened to that would have guided me through those tough moments, because I'll be honest with you, like there was a point in time in my career where I really thought about it. Like, you have no idea sorry if this is controversial, please feel free to edit any of this out, but you have no idea how many people at one point, like it was like the thing. If you're a streamer, you have OnlyFans. Like, and I mean OnlyFans, not just OnlyFans. That was a hard thing for me to navigate because everyone was like, you'll make so much money, you'll gain so many more followers, you'll this and that. And I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, like that's just not me. And again, no hate to anyone who does do that. I really no hate at all. I really don't care. And I mean, I'm very supportive of my friends who do have it. This isn't a judgmental thing, but it wasn't authentic to my why. And it was hard for me to balance that because it was easier. It was easier to go, oh, I'll make money really quickly. And, I won't have to spend long hours coming up with a challenge for myself to make a YouTube video of me playing a video game to, like it just was easier to do something like that. And I really had to fight it. And I'm glad that I pushed past those thoughts and kept staying authentic to my why.
I think there's just this really weird like segment of the internet that in some way sexualizes everything. Right.
But I get lumped into it. Like I'm telling you, it doesn't, if I meet someone in person and I go, oh yeah, I play video games, I'm a streamer. It could be a 50-year-old man. It could be a 20-year-old woman. It doesn't matter who. Their next question is always the same. So do you have OnlyFans? How do you
Yeah.
make your money? Same question every single time. And I'm like, no, I play video games. I represent AT&T and Samsung and Sony. Like, I work with these high tier brands and they pay me. They're like, oh, so do you like, you make money from your fans? I'm like, no, I don't make money from the public. Like, the public is struggling right now. Like, I'm not taking money from the 99%. I'm taking money from the corporations, the AT&Ts, the Sonys, the Samsungs. Like, that's who I'm working with. You know, I don't want to take money from the 99%. That's not who I am as a creator as well. But anyways, again, feel free to edit it because I know this is so controversial, but it's just true. Like, I don't know what else to talk about.
Now, being honest, I honestly, this is probably going to be our favorite. If you see a bunch of clips line up on our Instagram, it's probably going to be about this because I love it. You are being very direct about something that is very true and very relevant in social media.
It's hard, right? Man. It's hard.
Yeah, it becomes such a common pivot for a lot of people who gain a platform.
I'm like sweating because I'm like, I know that this type of topic receives backlash, but it's so easy to bandwagon on the people who, you know, are the opposite thinking of myself. Yeah. So I'm like,
yeah.
I think that like the important thing, like my big takeaway for creators is like that option's clearly there. Everyone knows it's there.
Yeah.
But there are other options. And I think that's the important message is there are ways to be a successful creator. There's ways to make a living. There are ways to do really great brand partnerships. And again, whatever choice you make in life and what you feel comfortable doing, fine, pursue that. And if there, you know, the monetization comes with it, that's also fine. But I think people not being educated on what options exist to create a living, to pursue what they want to do.
Very true.
They're going to fall into the easiest thing or the thing that is most stereotypical or what people tell them to go do who have good or bad intent. And so I think providing more resources, more information can only serve to help people.
Definitely. And there's another thing too that a lot of creators don't know. This is like a secret industry thing. And Kwame, I'm sure you've heard of it too. Have you ever heard of brand safety?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think a lot of influencers, they don't like necessarily understand the rating or like how it works. But when you work with like large companies, I won't name any of them, but the ones that you like walk out on the street and you see everywhere, those types of companies have like an internal, they do a background check, they do like everything. And they have an internal rating system that tells you how brand safe you are. Like, are you going to cause a controversy in the future and make them look bad? And they do this by going through your background, your social media posts, like everything. So there is an avenue to go when you work with those large companies. Like, you have to stay within those confines. Unfortunately, we don't always know what those confines are. So you could be staying brand safe, you could not. But hopefully, you know, for the people that do want to make money in that way, you are staying somewhat brand safe within, you know, their rules or guidelines.
It'll live out there with the YouTube monetization rules as the black box and the TikTok algorithm and the loosely understood, but generally understand what it's about.
Yeah.
Very confusing, constantly changing. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's all about, right, like you said, just being cognizant of what you want out of it. And if you have your why, ultimately, you know what you're focusing on. When those opportunities come up, you're like, well, this doesn't necessarily fit my why, you know? And so for some people it doesn't, and for some people it does. And so take the path and tailor the path that's most comfortable and best for you and your growth as a creator. And that's what's important, right? And, you know, we've talked a little bit about being a creator and focusing on that. We're going to get to, I think, the brand partnerships and a bit more of that. But I want to have a tiny segue because obviously you had a, you know, we'll call it kind of a stint on Netflix as well, which is what connected us. But, you know, whoop Netflix fam. So I'd love to know about your experience on The Mole, how that got started and how that actually impacted your brand.
It was a crazy experience. I don't know how your filming was, but I heard that your filming was also pretty tough.
Yeah.
So how do I say this without breaking NDA? I have had a lot of conversations with people from different shows like The Circle and Love is Blind, you know, all of the Netflix OG shows. And I kid you not, I have had people cry when I tell them how the filming was on The Mole. And that's no shade at the production company. They did an amazing job, but it's a hard show to be on. The filming is 2.5 months and they want all of the interactions on camera. So when we're not filming, they put you in a hotel room like alone with no TV, no internet, no phone, no music, like no space to move around. Like I was doing yoga in my room with like my leg up on one shelf. And then like I was refolding my clothes over and over again to entertain myself. And I was telling a friend about this and like her eyes started tearing up and I was like, are you okay? And she was like, no, it's just like really sad. Like it seems really lonely. And I was like, it was, but you know, it was tough. The filming process.
Yeah, I'm with you there on the filming process. I've shared this on an earlier episode. I remember like they say, I forget what the exact word is. Ice. That's it. Ice means that like, don't talk. We want to make sure that
no conversation.
Exactly. Yep. Any dialogue that's being shared has to be shared when the camera's rolling because we need this content. And so for a vast majority of like being part of this experiment, or being like on the set or whatever the case, like you are on ice, therefore you're separated. And, I talked about the difference between once we, go through our, engagements and then transition on to like Mexico, there's about like 3 or 4 days there where you don't have your phone and you have nothing. And, obviously you're being fed and all that good stuff. We got to throw that part out. Yeah. Everything's okay. But I remember I watched the same episode of Friends like 3 or 4 times.
At least you had that. We didn't even have that.
Oh my goodness.
I'm telling you. We didn't have TV, but no, that's super rough. It's like you enter a relationship, you're super excited. You're like, do they feel the same way? Like, how is this going to go? And then you're just stuck in a room for 4 days. Like we had a 13-day halt in filming because something happened with like one of the borders closing in Australia during filming because of COVID. So I kid you not, I had a knock on the door like twice a day for food and I did not leave for 13 days. I broke down. I was like sobbing and production felt so bad that they gave us, wait for it, a 10-minute phone call. Literally, my family thought I was kidnapped because I could not speak because I was crying. I was like, dude. And I just, and I'm not a crier. Yeah. I don't cry. I swear I do not cry unless it's extreme.
Wow. I complain about like 2 hours without Wi-Fi on like a short plan. There's no way I'm going 13 days.
Yeah, the filming process is hard. It is, but it's worth it. Like, I think, you found your love through it. And I loved your guys' story. That was so beautiful to watch. And even seeing you guys now, like, you just notice the little things, like seeing her commenting on your stuff or you commenting on hers. And it's just all around supportive and we need things like this. Like after Perfect Match season 2 dropped, I was like, please take me back to Bliss and Zach, to Kwame and Chelsea. Like I need healthy relationships in front of me.
That's so funny. We talked to Izzy yesterday, and it was pretty funny him reflecting on season 2 and his experience. But
he's good people. I like Izzy.
100%. So coming out of the Mole, like you obviously did pretty well. Like what was the splash like after that? Like was it life-changing? Was it, because you were already out there in the public eye, was it different? Like how did that dynamic shift for you?
I'm used to interacting with people online, but the one thing that was crazy for me is I'm not so used to people not knowing me as a person, because as a live streamer, you really spend a lot of time, hi, welcome to the chat. Hope you're having a good day. Like that's the type of streamer I am. And so all of these people are watching me be deceptive on a deception game and they're judging my personal character off of it. Yeah. And so I had a lot of people that were like really mean to me and, I can take hate. It's, it's no big deal, but it was honestly just more sad to me that people didn't actually like know me or take the time to get to know me before making all these judgments. I'm like, chill, it's a game. Like it's literally a game. That's not my character. It's just I wanted to win. you know?
Yeah,
So that was hard.
I've seen like, so there's a part of me that really, really, really wants to go on Traders. Right.
You should do it.
And
You should do it.
I really want to go on Traders. However, there's a part of me that also like, I see the backlash from the internet towards people who are traders. And the thing is like, especially when you look at a game show where in the US Traders, it's a bunch of celebrities who go into a house, right? Like most of these people don't really need this money, right? Like they don't need, like, and so everyone is there to play the game. And I've seen people, like I see people be like, oh, you're such a traitor, you're such a liar, you're such a bad person, you're a character, this. And I'm like, it's like playing Deal or No Deal.
Yeah.
It's my job to win this game. Yeah, it ain't that serious. At the end of the day, we'll all go to the reunion or whatever, like, and we'll all be happy. We'll all laugh a little bit. Maybe if I win, I'll buy everybody some drinks or something. I don't know. But like, that is a really difficult thing because you start to realize like, people associate, especially with like competition games, they associate the things that you have to do in the competition games with like your personality or your character. And that's a really, really tough thing to deal with.
And editing, because like they made it seem like I really duped over my ally Pranav. When I tell you, I don't know how they put that together. He knew the entire time. Like him and I were like this. And to this day, like we just played Call of Duty for 4 hours yesterday. If I would have actually done that to him, don't you think he would hate me? Like he knew everything. And I don't know, their editing team, I don't know where they got that from or how they pulled that story together. But people were like, oh, how dare you? Like you're such a scumbag for screwing over your ally. Like you're not a real friend. And I was like, guys, I have no words because that was like, just really good editing.
Yeah, it's so funny on Traders, like watching Trishelle and CT are like, did that really happen? Was that an ad? Like, but it was fun to watch Pete on Traders. Like, that was a whole nother side. Like, you get this like all-American pilot, loves his mom, and then he's just like, I'm gonna get all of you. So like,
I talked to Pete about. I wanted to say so. I've got some feelings about, we'll talk about it another time. I've got a lot of feelings about Pete and the trader, but he was so good in his like tactics and his like strategy. The only issue that I think Pete had was like he got a little too confident about the fact that it was going good, and that's where you know what I mean. You got to keep it tight. But anywho, enough about the traders. We'll dive a little bit into like your experience with, growing your brand and then taking it on to partnerships. You mentioned a slew of really, really awesome partnerships and brands there that you're, people you're making money from. So first things first, what's been some of your favorite partnerships that you've worked with and how did those end up, happening?
I mean, anything gaming makes me excited, whether it's like a free keyboard. I'm like, yes, I'm your girl. Sign me up. But I will say, I think some of my favorite partnerships have involved travel. So I did a partnership with Expedia. And they had us rent a car for free and take this trip with my husband and I. And we made these really cool videos and they gave us a free stay. We had all of our food covered. And one of the things I value the most in life is just experiences. And I know a lot of other people do too. And that's the great thing about being a creator is when you put a lot of effort into your creations, sometimes that means that you get to have these experiences that you wouldn't normally get to have or, maybe wouldn't normally get to afford. So anytime I can take my creative mind and use that as a tool to create better experiences for both myself and my family or, just for other people to enjoy online too, that makes me feel good. And whether it's working with a headset or a keyboard or a game company, my main goal when I create content is just creating something that inspires others or, makes them feel good. So if I can do that, no matter what I'm doing, that makes me a very happy girl.
That's awesome. We definitely see a common theme of travel. It was funny. We did an interview with Basically I Do Work and he was like, just send me toilet paper, send me anything like household good. So I was like, I guess he's the anomaly in streamers. If they don't want keyboards, he wants household products.
Look, all I have to say is I tied toilet paper to a fan 2 months ago, and it has 160 million views. I'm not even kidding. It's my most viewed video of all time. The toilet paper brand deals through the roof.
That's awesome.
I'm kidding.
Wow.
I'm kidding. But no, I really did. I really did get 160 million views from tying toilet paper to my fan.
That
so did wild. Happen.
The internet is an amazing place. That's all I can say. So we asked this question of everyone: if you could have one aspirational brand that you would just love to do a collab with, what's your dream brand?
Man, that is so tough. I actually thought about this for a long time because I do a lot of brand deals, and eventually, I'm not even trying to plug, I won't even say what it is, but I got so tired of plugging someone else's brand and making someone else money that I decided to make my own thing that I feel like, would be beneficial to the people that watch my stuff. So if I could have any brand come to fruition for me, it would be success of something that I've created myself that is both helpful for me and my followers, whatever it may be.
So it's awesome. So maybe unpack that piece, because we haven't talked a lot about people who have started their own products or done their own merch or tried to venture into partnerships to create products. How have you explored that process? How's that gone?
Well, I don't want to plug it. I feel it's weird doing that. So I'll just say that I think when you realize that you have an influence over a group of people, if you can come up with something that you feel is authentic to your brand and also is helpful. And that's the key word. Is a lot of influencers, they're like, let me drop a shirt or, a skincare line or, whatever it is, but it's not authentic. You're basically white labeling something, slapping your name on it and hoping that your followers buy it. People can sense that that's a cash grab, that it's not authentic. And, they can basically get these products from anywhere else that just don't have your name attached to it. And I think that is the biggest mistake influencers make. So if you can come up with something that you truly feel, and let me give one example of this is Skims. Kim Kardashian is known for, her curvy figure. And I really feel like that is why Skims has become massively successful, is because she created something that her followers basically followed her for. This unique body shape that she has. And she solved a problem by giving them something that they can also wear and use to give them that similar shape and feel. And I think a lot of influencers don't understand the business side and the marketing side behind giving your followers something that they need that is truly authentic to who you are. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's what I try and do.
Yeah. And we love that for you. And I think if you ever have anything that you really want to directly point to and say, hey, this is my thing, go buy it. We're okay with that on this platform. I mean, we have your time, so you are welcome to do whatever you want with it.
Well, I appreciate that. I recently released a board game, and that's my thing. But yes, you can cut this out. By the way, I really I'm not that type of person to plug my stuff. So
go buy Backstabber First Edition.
Yeah, it's called Backstabber. It's based off of my experience on The Mole. And I also know that there's a huge problem in the gaming community where people are basically at their computers and not social. So I wanted to release something that gets people together in person, physical touch, physical interaction, and, solves that problem of not having someone to play with. You have a game like that. You want to invite people over, have a game night, and, really create that personal in-person connection.
Got to bring back LAN parties.
Oh, stop my heart. Yes. That is one of my dreams too, is to open a huge LAN studio. I would love that.
Those are some of the best memories. It's funny. So fun fact about me, I worked at Circuit City during college.
Really? Oh my gosh. I remember Circuit. Is that even still in business?
Not at all. Not at all.
Circuit City. Oh my gosh. I remember that.
But it was so funny because after the store would close up, we would have these huge TVs and we would set up the game consoles, get them together with the LAN cable, and we play back to back on Xbox and whatever it was back in the day. But it was,
and that's why they went out of business, because the workers were gaming and not working. Good job.
Hey, it was after hours, but
I'm kidding.
No, it was funny. But no, like that getting together, having that human interaction, it is
Yeah.
tough with the internet, with social and stuff. Everything, it's like you feel the most connected and disconnected all at once.
Yeah, it's
It's
weird.
like such a weird kind of paradigm, especially for those of us who, lived majority of their life in like a physical in-person kind of paradigm. Like obviously now it's different. Everyone's like digital native and connected, but it is weird transitioning where what being in an office, what being in the same room as people trying to be social. And now it's like social is this whole new Wild West.
Yeah, it's difficult. It definitely is, but you got to have a good balance of both.
So I'm curious on as a streamer, how do you feel like you're really connected with people? Like I feel like the one to many, and then
Calling
like
me out.
the rolling chat. It feels like I put myself in your position. It would feel really hard to digest everything going on. You're kind of doing a performance, you're playing a game, you're trying to digest chat, you're trying to digest all these relationships. I'm like curious how connected you feel with that experience, or you're just kind of in the moment and it kind of is a blur.
I mean, I have my core followers that are there every time and I feel super connected to them. Even my core community, they've been with me through everything, like 7 years now. So I feel super connected to them. When it comes to new people, it does get a little difficult to balance, the game and juggling chat. But at the same time, once people become a part of the community, like they're in. And the thing that makes me the most happy is when I'm gaming and I'm distracted by the game, trying to entertain by hitting crazy headshots. But I see people in chat adding each other and talking to each other. And I look over and I'm like, oh, yes. And then I'll make jokes and I'll be like, you guys didn't even come here for me. Like you came here for each other. And that makes me really happy. So it's all a girl can really want. Like I really do. I love seeing that people are making friends. That's like the main thing.
Yeah, I love a good self-sustaining community.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It means like it's building and it feels good, when it starts from you. I mean, I'm not saying it has to, right? But when it starts from you, it's a whole different feeling. I love culminating that. And, as we get closer to the end of this, a couple things that I, wanted to ask in terms of everything that you've gone through, all the steps that you've taken to get to where you are. When you reflect back, do you have anything at all that you would tell yourself as you were starting that would, maybe alter things in a better way for you? Or do you think I have anything that you would change?
Good question. I think, I wouldn't be where I am without, struggling through what I struggled through. But I definitely know that I had some weak moments where I really have questioned myself in my content creation journey. And this is really vulnerable for me to say, but I'm sure every content creator has gone through this. So I'm just going to say it. The highs are high and the lows are low. And what I mean by that is when the views are up, when you're getting invited to events, when everyone, it seems like everyone wants to be your friend, like it feels so good and it's so validating and, you feel important. But the negative side of social media is that sometimes there's a dip in views and, there's a dip in getting invited to events. And sometimes even when you are at events, or you are in important places, you're the least important in those important places and you know it. But positive self-talk is like a game changer. You have to keep reminding yourself that you're in that room for a reason, whether you have the least amount of followers or you have the most. And instead of looking at it like, why didn't I get to this point? Or how come I can't get these views? Or why is no one interested? Or whatever it is that you're thinking about. Instead of thinking about it like that, you have to focus on the things that you're doing right. I know I'm talking a lot, but let me just give you one example because this year was actually a little difficult for me mentally. And I had to shift my mindset. I got nominated for a Netflix award and I didn't get it. I competed for a pageant and I didn't win. And there's something under NDA that I also had on my plate, but it didn't come to fruition. And it was hard for me to like swallow all of that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just losing like every single thing I'm doing this year. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like you got nominated for a Netflix award. How many people can say that? Oh my gosh, you got top 15 for the Miss Arizona USA pageant. How many people can say that? And then for this other thing too, it's like there were so many people that wanted this and I at least got the chance. How many people can say that? So it's really a shift in mindset to, you know, be proud of yourself and continue to look at things for what you have done and not what you're lacking. Anyways,
moment.
I know that was like a long, I could talk for forever. Sorry, but it's just true. Like we're so hard on ourselves. So
it's interesting. We talk a lot about, it's like this interesting curse of wanting to be better, knowing you're capable of doing more, but somehow finding perspective in that moment to like recognize accomplishment. And it's always a tough balance, especially for people who have an achievement mindset or have big goals and aspirations, is reflecting back and taking stock of where you're at, being thankful for the blessings you have, the relationships you have, but then also getting back to it and turning that into motivation to go and pursue the next kind of piece of your journey. And so
100%. And that's the cycle. And so on it goes.
Well, that's awesome. And, you know, we're going to close this up with, you know, first, like a big thank you to you for joining us. I think that this was an incredibly deep, meaningful, thought-provoking conversation. So, Avery, we really appreciate you taking the time today. This has been a great chat, and I'll pass it to Scott because he always has a great way to end these.
No, I think I'm super happy for your success. I think, you know, I'm always reassured when we meet great people, and I think these are the side of people. You know, when you're trying to be funny, you're trying to entertain people. We don't get to see this kind of side, you know, and we talk a lot about the majority of creators, and especially the ones doing brand deals, are female. And it is a tough space. And I think about like the modeling of the 90s and body image, there's a whole new set of issues and a whole kind of set of challenges for females entering into the gaming space, into social media, and having to navigate a lot of tough decisions. And I just love the perspective that you have. And it's not coming from a place of judgment, but coming from a place of confidence and being centered in who you are and what you want. And I think there's a lot of creators, male, female, otherwise, that should hear that message. So keep doing you. We're stoked for your success. We'll always advocate for you. Keep crushing it. And thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. And hopefully you don't have to edit out too much.
Yeah, we'll tell our editing guy David to watch out for just about anything you say.
Oh man, I ruined the podcast.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us on today's fantastic episode of Beyond Influence. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.